And that's the end of the round robin. Cav, that was an impressive 6 games. Thanks so much for casting. What did you think about it all?
I really liked it, but I'm gonna be honest. I would have preferred to cast some of the specials that are coming up. All supports, hyper and hyper carry in particular, and those are coming up in the semifinals and the grand finals. So if you guys really like those game modes, I think the fun is actually yet to come. There's even better game modes coming up. So you guys should stick around for the finals and the semifinals, 100%.
Yeah, so let's just go over a recap of what's happened so far. So if we look at like the 6 games we had, we ended up having, Lords the Hype Forge coming out on top. They ended up winning 3 games to none in an epic win there over Geeks of Gank to secure that first place seeding in the finals. Geeks of Gank came in second with a 2-1 win-loss record, followed by Trolling Blizz with 1 wins and 2 losses, and Nexus Realm Power Heroes came in fourth place, 0 wins and 3 losses. Cav, was there like a favorite game you had there? I really think that the Peekaboo was interesting to me. I don't know, what did you think of the games? Maybe that 40-minute ARAM game?
Peekaboo could have been my favorite if a dropship had been near a building at any point during that game. And actually that ARAM it hurt because it's just like Ragnaros is so unfair. In Aaron, the game felt so unfair. As soon as they had Rag, like they could have double Junkratted and it would have been a little bit better. But my favorite game, I think man, there
were any surprises?
There were some good. No, see, the problem is there were some really good formats, and I think that some of the formats ended up like the No Vision game. Actually, I think was the most fun, or the All Vision game was the most fun in terms of like what teams did to deal with it. I think that was really, really interesting. But the fact that they just had a strategy and didn't execute makes it strong. But I think All Warriors was actually my favorite game.
Yeah, that was fun. And I'm glad we ended up seeing the Chen get picked too. I was worried that TBK might ban it out because of knowing that Zex was likely going to take it. I know you had some hesitance on Zex maybe taking it because of all the CC that you typically get with the tanks, but hey, that's Zex for you, right?
You just don't draft Chen in ETC. Like as soon as they ETC, I was like, Chen's not a consideration anymore, and no one would draft it into that. I was wrong.
There's one man in the world that will still draft Chen no matter what the odds against him. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But if we're looking forward to the semis and the finals, those are going to come up after a short break. Cav is going to leave us for the day. Thank you so much, Cav, for all the hard work and everything you put in after we do this little wrap up. And for the finals and the semis, we're actually going to be joined by Bahamut from Heroes Hype caster, and Styx, community caster. So in the semifinals, we've got Seed 1, Lords of the Hype Forge. They're going to be matching up at Nexus Realm Power Heroes. They're going to be playing the first 3 games in this best of 3 are going to be first one's Braxis Holdout. It's going to be a reverse draft, which is always interesting. I almost kind of wish, Kat, we had you to draft to comment on the draft there, because the reverse draft always blows my mind, like how many different inceptions you need to think of and how many far steps ahead you need to be in the draft on Braxis Holdout. Game 2 is going to be on Garden of Terror, and it's going to be monsters versus humans. And if it goes to a third game, we're going to see Curse Hollow Sandbox. We're going to see Ludicrous Speed again. That was the first game of the round robin, repeated here, but on Cursed Hollow instead of Volskaya. Anything there that you are particularly going to keep an eye on there, Cav?
I mean, I'm always curious about reverse drafts. In fact, I would love to stick around and cast the reverse draft. Because the ban should be used in such a way, like, what's the hero that we think is bad and we can't play it? Like, don't think about just what hero is bad. That's not the first thing you think about. Think about what hero can we absolutely not play? No one on our team has any idea how to play this hero. And there's certain heroes that are just like, your team's never played them, and that's when you start really wanting to go into hero pools and really think about it. And you have to think about it backwards, which is very difficult for some people. But every hero in Heroes of the Storm has something that they're synergistic with, that they're good with. Zarya is good with other heavy melee heroes. Zarya is good at pushing, so you maybe draft her with certain heroes that help you push better. And just, if you've never thought about that, but if you've never played a hero, you might not have that knowledge of, I know this is what this hero is good at. So you can't build the synergy, or in this some cases build the anti-synergy. Like you build a comp that just doesn't work together at all, and then everyone who's playing this hero has to be like, these are the talents we need to take. This is how we're going to need to play this. And Braxis is such a snowballing map. Maybe you could even draft like heroes that are good but that are late game, and so the enemy team has a really big disadvantage unless the game goes really late.
It's so difficult. Like I was actually, when I participated in the first round of Creators of the Storm last summer, I was stuck in the reverse draft game, and we did things like we gave them Rexar because we're like, okay, not many people play Rexar. Turns out they had a Rexar player on their team. They gave us Alarak because they were like, hey, maybe Alarak's something that they can't play too, and we had an Alarak player. So I mean, it's hard to tell because the other thing too is a lot of the heroes are balanced and they have their specific strengths. So you might think, okay, this hero is bad, but you got to be careful what you give to go along with that. You might give them too much lane clear, or you might give them too much focus damage, or too much healing. It's really something you got to keep in mind when you're making these decisions for the other team.
Yeah, it can be really, really stressful. Also, a lot of times with the reverse draft, there's restrictions put in place. Like you have to draft at least one support or at least one healer. I don't know what the rules are for that. It's going to be so
no restrictions at all. No so it should be. So we'll see what the teams come up with that. And then for the second stage, the second semi-final, we've got Geeks of Gank, the second seed, who just lost on that heartbreaker against Lords of the Hypeforge, coming up against the third seed Trolling Blizz. The 3 games for that one, we've got the first game on Sky Temple, all supports. That'll be a bit of a throwback to the last tournament when we had an all sports game, and I remember losing that one to, as I mentioned before, the Bloodlust Stim Droned Archon, and that hurt a lot. The second game is going to be on Battlefield of Eternity. It's going to be Horde versus the Alliance. And then if it goes to 3, Towers of Doom, all Assassins, which we just saw just recently in that last game there. How about this set there, Cav? What are you looking forward to here?
I'm looking forward to all supports, to be honest, because Tyrande is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as the game goes on. And then it's going to be Tassadar. So I think ideally those would both be banned. Like you don't want to, like if one team bans Tyrande, then the other team has to ban Tassadar, so then they'd end up not being consideration. But if they both get let through the draft and then one team has one and one team has the other, ooh, that's going to be a really, because once Tassadar hits 20, he has Infinite Archon. It's very difficult to deal with him. But then Tron's stacking Owls that whole game. And you wouldn't think the Owls would matter, but then she also has the burst damage potential from her trait, and she has CC lockdown. Other supports that are going to matter, any support that has CC is going to matter a lot. So Uther's going to matter, Malfurion's going to matter, Stukov is going to matter. Stukov and Tassadar also have the best wave clear and the best ability to take camps of any of the supports. So that's going to matter if they want to like make macro calls, and just knowing the little intricacies of those heroes is going to make a big difference in the draft. And Horde versus Alliance is just going to be good, wholesome fun because skins count. So that's going to be like a wallet win for someone, I feel.
Yeah, and we had that Horde versus Alliance game last time around, and it's amazing how many people come in chat being like, no, technically that character's Alliance or was on the Horde, and like all the different skin combinations you can come up with can really affect hero eligibility as well. So it leads to a lot of interesting picks that you might not expect that come out there because they might be like natively a Overwatch character, but they happen to have a Warcraft skin of some sort. So you can really throw teams for a loop in the draft there. Players that heroes you think weren't allowed in the game are actually eligible with those skin combinations. So the finals too, the winners of the semis are going to go on the best of 3 finals. It's going to start with Warhead Junction, StarCraft versus Diablo. There's actually no bans in this one too, just because of how few StarCraft and Diablo heroes there are, and we don't want to be able to choke out like all of the Diablo supports, because I think there's only Ariel and Karazim.
It's just Karazim and Ariel. Yeah.
And then on the StarCraft side, I believe it's Tassadar and one more that I'm missing. I believe there's 2. Morales. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. And I mean, there's also limited amounts of warriors and assassins too. So we'll have to see how both sides end up faring there. The next game would be on Dragonshire. That's Hypercarry, one that I know, Cav, that you were pretty interested in. So So the rules for that is it's just there's a standard ban phase, first and mid bans. Each team can only take one assassin, and specialists aren't allowed to, and variants not allowed. So we're really pigeonholing in, those hyper carry roles. Are people going to take Greymanes? Are they going to take Valas? What are they going to go with? I wonder. It's going to be interesting to see. And then finally, if it goes to 3, we're going to Infernal Shrines, the no supports game. How about in the finals here? What do you think we're going to find here? And who do you think we're going to see in the finals too, after we've seen them all play throughout the round robin series?
I mean, I think we're going to see a rematch, Lords of the Hive Forge versus Geeks of the Gang. There could be an upset. It's always possible, especially with specialized rules like this. Sometimes prep wins out over. And you never know. Maybe the other teams were holding back. And they're like, okay, guys, we're going to the semifinals no matter what. Well, who cares what our standing is? And they're going to break out their strategies in the semifinals and take it to the finals. But I didn't actually know hypercarry was no specialist because that wasn't in the rules doc that I got. So now I want to do that even more because it's basically tanks, it's warriors, not even tanks, warriors, supports, and one assassin each.
Yeah, we made the decision too because there was some chat amongst all the participants saying, well, like, what about if you throw in like a Nazebo? He can kind of be like that mage or a Zagara. So it kind of took away from the like essence of what we're trying to grab here with the hyper carry. So we decided, you know what? No specialists are allowed here. So it's purely, like you said, one assassin and then any combination of warriors and supports that you want. So that'll be an interesting one.
I know what I would do for that. I'm not going to say it because I'm not going to, like, if anyone's watching, I don't want to get an advantage going into the grand finals, but I know what I would do for that.
We'll have to bring you on our podcast maybe in a week or two and then to see what you would have done for those games and see what, maybe reminisce about what the teams end up doing. But before we head on into the semifinals, we're actually going to take about a 10-minute break. We're going to show the introductory videos for all the teams, get everyone a little bit more acclimatized to who all the participants are. You can definitely check all the informations below the stream to check out the videos, check all the information. We got a ton of great participants, great podcasts, great websites, great writers, and great casters, all working on this tournament. It's a great little come together for their community. CavalierGuest, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to host this amazing event. It's been a blast, and we've definitely enjoyed the cast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm always happy to participate in community events. This has actually been a lot of fun. I think next year, or if this is going to be every 6 months, maybe next time I'll compete, and we'll see. We'll see if I'm as good at casting as I am at.
Well, I definitely know that you'd have pretty good, interesting strategies all cooked up too, because you're, as we like to say, the Sun Tzu of Heroes of the Storm. I like to think that we coined that over the Nexus Trolls.
You did.
Anyhow, thanks again, Cav. Okay, now we're just going to jump into our 10-minute break. We'll see you all shortly.